Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Director of Hadhari UKM, Professor Dr. Kofi Yasushi, Director of Hadhari Center for Islamic Civilizational Studies at Kyoto University, distinguished guests, scholars, ladies and gentlemen. Alhamdulillah, we can be here to have our what we call as a roundtable discussion on global Hadhari network. This is our first event to plot on to chatter what you want to do after the roundtable.
I must say that I'm very happy to see so many of our friends, not only from overseas but locally here. Inshallah, that with your presence to be here, and believe that there are so many things that we are going to think of, so many things again together. We are Muslims, but I was told that there are only Muslims, and then that's good, and then we will have an opportunity to talk to our members who are here, to all the scholars, ladies and gentlemen that are here, all of them are here, and inshallah, that having you here at this place, and then I'm sure that there's a lot of understanding about so many issues that is going to come up.
With that, I hand over this session to Professor Yusuf
Yes.
to be moderator of the session.
Yang amat berbahagia Tuan Ahmad Badawi, Tuan Menteri Malaysia Kelima, Yang Berusaha Datuk Jeffrey Din, Delegasi, Dr. Hakimi, and my colleague from Japan, Professor Kushugi and Dr. Nagaoka, and distinguished scholars, ulama, everyone, and tuan-tuan. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, I would like to thank God Almighty for His blessing and also for His bounty for giving us the opportunity to be here. And I think for me personally, this is the ultimate of this Islam Hadhari. Just for information, I have to mention this. We are celebrating our 10 years anniversary in this conjunction, and our institute was formally officiated by Tun on the 12th of February 2008, but it was approved by our Senate, UKM Senate, on the 10th of May 2007. So together with Prof. Datin Javiyah, we start operating our institute Hadhari in July. Last 25th of May, our current Prime Minister officiated our 10th anniversaries together with YABhg. So this 10th anniversaries for us is very meaningful, and when we can have this global networking. I also would like to mention here that in depth to our turn for meeting this idea of Islam Hadhari. In UKM, we are entrusted by our university. As a university entity, of course, we have to conduct our research as well as we to have our PhD student publication, whatever it is, relating with the academic activities. But fortunately for us, when after 1 year, we visited Kyoto University. In fact, actually, it's not Kyoto University. We went to see Sofia University, Nagoya, as well as Kyoto. But Kyoto gave us a very good and warm, welcome, as well respond to us that you should have this. And in fact, they take the opportunity just to inform our audience here. On 31st of May 2014, Tun himself went to Kyoto University commemorating this, officially launching the Hadhari Kyoto. And on the 1st of April 2015, I was made to understand by Professor Kushugi, the Senate of Kyoto University approved the center. And now he is the founding director of Hadhari Center for Islamic Civilizational Studies. So, and in order to celebrate our 10th anniversary, of course, as academician, as academic entity, we produce this special journal. Also speech by Tun himself, the first chapter, and also from our colleague from Japan. So last February, I just want to mention before I hand over this chairmanship to Professor Khosrow, we had discussion with Kyoto on, I think, February, and we decided to have also, after discuss with Legacy and Tun himself, that we should go global. So we produced this, if you have with you, this is not finalized. This is not finalized. This is just the idea from Institute Islam Hadhari UKM and also the Global Center of Kyoto University. We hope to get more interaction, more comment, and more suggestion from all of you. How can we go further after this? Professor Khosrow already have in mind about the moderation, because Islam is always promoted at the extreme, extreme religious, extreme whatever it is, and Hadhari have to take the initiative to amend this. At the same time, he mentioned about people start talking about healthy life, and in several talks he mentioned about halal life. He mentioned about the concept of halal life, I think several times about this thing, and we try to bring it here, whether we can bring this idea for the world. And the third one is the idea of to sit together, coexistent with the other faith and with the other system that we have. So in fact, in Japan, they already buy some of our ideas based on the academic. I think about 8 students from Kyoto University doing their PhD based on research on Hadhari, halal, wakaf, as well as and other things. And in this time, Kyoto University sent 5 PhD students, their students, postgraduate students now with us.
Yeah.
Not here, for the conference, because they have been entertained by their colleagues, our students now. So the day after tomorrow, on Wednesday and Thursday, we are going to have our annual symposium. We call it ISICAS, International Symposium on Islam, Civilization and Science, because we think that the challenge of science is quite very big that we have to face, because the basis of science is the secularism. Science has nothing to do with God. So this is the real issue. So that's why we take this issue, and we have this annual conference every year. And this year is the 8th. The 8th ISICAS, alternately being organized in Japan and in Malaysia, and give the opportunity to the postgraduate students to present their paper. At the same time, if we conduct in Malaysia, we bring some scholars who are going to give keynote speech. And Tun always with us when we have this seminar. So I think with that a little bit introduction, I would like to call my colleague Professor Khosrow to give his view on this.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil mursaleen Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Thank you very much for introduction, Professor Yusuf. As he mentioned, our Honorable Tun Abdullah Ahmad Badawi visited our university 3 years ago and kindly officiated the inauguration of the office for Hadhari Center for Islamic Civilizational Studies. I had the opportunity to see Tun earlier, and we had discussions over how we should contribute to the world through Islamic civilization. And I was very impressed with this idea of Islam Hadhari, because the non-Muslim world especially, but even Muslims today don't understand that the greatness of Islam as a civilization. Islam as a religion, I'm sure that is in a family established in the heart of our brothers and sisters. but we really need that revival of Islamic civilization, not only for the Islamic sake, but for the sake of entire humanity. I think we may agree altogether that the current condition of humanity is too many conflicts, too many problems. Modern civilization has failed in many ways, but now problem is that who is going to reform it and save it. And I believe that we really need to mobilize that all civilizational assets in mankind, and Islam is on the top of this list. And Islam Hadhari has a mission to mankind. And now by establishing Hadhari Center for Islamic Civilizational Studies in Kyoto, we believe that this after Institute Islam Hadhari in UKM, and I'm sure that you have many institutions, and I'm very impressed with all presence of all distinguished scholars here. And now I believe that that's start of globalizing Islam Hadhari, and but now Malaysia, Japan is not enough to make it global. We need to really make it global so that entire mankind can appreciate it, and also we can contribute to the prospective future civilization. So I'm very happy to have to join this roundtable discussion. Now, tomorrow we are going to have a signing ceremony for memorandum of understanding between UKM and our university. And with all this, our university, I think, is getting more serious about cooperation, and I'm happy with that. And I'm hoping to make more of a friend in Japan to add Islam Hadhari. And well, I'm not saying that we have great ability with our humble selves, but we will do our best, inshallah. And I'm looking forward to listening all suggestions and comments, and I hope that out of this round table we can have a good start for globalizing the Islam Hadhari, inshallah. Barakallah fiik.
Thank you very much, Professor Khoshugi, for the introduction. Inshallah, tomorrow we are going to have the MOU between our university and Kyoto, and in that MOU we are going to share, our resources, particularly in the academic. Maybe we are going to have not only exchange the lecturer and the student, but also we can have a double degree with Kyoto University, inshallah, tomorrow morning. Tomorrow also we're going to have this forum on Islam and Science and Civilization. So now I call Dr. Mashita. Dr. Mashita is our fellow, our research fellow. Yeah, her specialist in environment ethics. So it's a bit, and the Prof. Khoshugi, I don't have to mention about him.
Thank you very much, Dr. Yusuf, YABhg and honorary guests. I just going to brief a little bit on what we're going to discuss today. But first of all, we would like to thank also Tun's office and also MyQ too, that Legacy, who organized this RPD roundtable discussion with Hadhari UKM. The whole booklet is just a proposal. It is not a final decision on the aspects of Hadhari Global Network. So we today actually is going to discuss 11 items. First is on the stakeholders of Hadhari Global Network. we have mentioned a little bit actually in item 2, paragraph 2 in this document, but that is not final, of course, so we need to discuss further. And second is name of Hadhari Global Network, also we mentioned in item 3 and 11 in this document. And third is governance structure of Hadhari Global Network, item 4 in this document. Fourth is concept of Hadhari Global Network, item 5 in this document. Fifth is vision of Hadhari Global Network, item 6 in this document. Sixth, mission of Hadhari Global Network, item 7 in this document. Seventh, aim of Hadhari Global Network, item 8 in this document. Eighth is objectives of Hadhari Global Network. This is item 9 in this document. Main activities of Hadhari Global Network, item 10 in this document. Ninth, support of Hadhari Global Network, item 11 in this document. And 11th, contact information of Hadhari Global Network, where the Secretariat will be placed, is item 12 in this document. I think without further ado, I would like to hand over back to Dr. Yusuf and also Prof. Kusugi to chair for the discussion of this roundtable discussion.
This is just mentioned by Professor Dr. Masuta just now. It's just proposal. Can be amended, you can add, you can comment, and you can give maybe some more ideas how we can bring these ideas of Hadhari into the global.
The GGM, it is actually GMM. We share quite many commonalities between the global network and also GMM. We have got 7 initiatives that we're working on. Among those 7 initiatives is peaceful coexistence, sustainable development, PVE, preventing violent extremism, also countering violent extremism, and also, of course, moderation has to be the main core of our business. So my suggestion would be that for the stakeholders of Hadhari Global Network, I think there is a need for us to do kind of a coordination between institutions that is already established here in Malaysia. Allow me to do a little bit of propaganda on GMM. We operate at 3 levels: locally, regionally, and internationally. So this is where the global network, I think, should also come in. Locally, we have been engaged with quite many local universities. We have got MOU signed with UKM, UEM, and also UIM. And of course, there are other institutions they are working on now. And one of the biggest programs that we are going to have next year will be a program with UTM. We call it the DIYC, the Diversity Inclusivity Youth Camp. This is one of our largest projects, which will be next year, in conjunction with UTM. And I think this is where I think Hadhari Global Network will come in also, because I could see the brains that you have around the table here are the Malaysian brains that we should mobilize, and of course with the Japanese help. Number 2, at the regional level, we have also got MOU signed with several institutions. For example, we have already signed an MOU with the Wasatiyah Institute for Peace and Development in Thailand. We are doing a lot of work with them. For example, we did a peace talk seminar in Patani recently, which was very successful. Very successful because for the first time ever, we managed to bring on stage representatives from the Buddhist community and also from the Muslim community. They speak about their problems among themselves, but we organize it. And again, HES moderation is part of the core business of the Hadhari Global Network. I think again, you can chip in on that. We are also working very closely with the Philippine Army. Interestingly, because the Philippine Army is now looking at a new approach to the issues in southern Philippines. I'm not saying they are quite tired with what they have been doing in southern Philippines with the hard measure approaches, but now they are now going into the soft measure approaches in handling the Muslim community and also the Christian community in southern Philippines. This is again another area that GMM would like to offer for our networking. Our network in the Philippines is quite good. The context that we have both from the government, also from the CSOs and the NGOs, and also from the army is there. I'll be going to Jakarta on Wednesday. Again, we have got programs especially focused on PVE, Preventing Violent Extremism, with the BNPT, the Badan Nasional Penanggulangan Terorisme. They are learning a lot from us actually. They've got more problems than we do, but they are learning a lot from us, especially from our SBs and our soft measure approaches. That is the regional level. At the international level, for your information, Tun, actually your name has been mentioned in our discussion last week. We are going to have a big program with our embassy at the Holy See, at the Vatican. We're going to have a program, a joint program on presenting to them the real images of Islam, preventing violent extremism, with the BNPT, the Badan Nasional Penanggulangan Terorisme. They are learning a lot from us actually. They've got more problems than we do, but they are learning a lot from us, especially from our SBs and our soft measure approaches. That is the regional level. At the international level, for your information, Tun, actually your name has been mentioned in our discussion last week. We are going to have a big program with our embassy at the Holy See, at the Vatican. We're going to have a program, a joint program on presenting to them the real images of Islam, coming from Malaysia as a model. And I think again, when we go into further preparation of this program, again, I think the network should come in also to help us with that. We have got, again, connection with some international organization, mainly in Europe and the US. And I think if we were to coordinate between what we're doing and also with this global Hadhari global network, I think that is where we can take off much smoothly and more successfully, inshallah. Thank you very much.
Dr. Hashim, please.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. I'm very happy that this discussion takes place and we are here around this table in the presence of Tun Abdullah, the founding father of this idea, and his continuing effort in attention to bring the Islamic discourse, which has gone in different directions, and to benchmark it on the idea of Islamic civilization, the values that Islam stands for. The ideas of Islam Hadhari arise from mainstream Islam. I don't think that anyone can doubt that. And the importance of doing this to bring civilizational themes and values into the center of the international Islamic discourse. We have been, in fact, this center has been occupied by fundamentalist radical discourse for many, many years, and it is still there. The moderate Islam, the civilizational Islam is neglected. Now, this is also important. I think the effort is worthwhile at the global level. And I'm coming from Malaysia, I think it does merit the kind of credibility that Malaysia also stands for. What we had in the last maybe half a century or more, that the idea of legitimacy, political and legal legitimacy, has been politicized. From the time of Sayyid Qutb in Maududi, the idea of Hakimiyya, the idea of sovereignty, Islamic State, became the kind of catchword. And that was a distortion, because Sunni Islam, traditional Islam, has placed the center of authority, legal, political authority, it is the Ummah. It is the Ummah. But they started to to focus on the state. The state in Islam is not part of the religion. It is a management kind of tool for the values that Islam stands for. But what happened that since then we had this politicalization of Islam. Islamic State and Constitution and so on. We took the authority from the Ummah and placed it somewhere else. Like we had, the idea was that the Ummah was the guardian of the Sharia, the guardian of these values. Now we place that into the state. Like you see that in the Sudan, Hassan Turabi gave bay'ah to Numayr for one thing, and that was that he will implement the Sharia. The same happened with Omar Bashir. They both usurped the political authority from the Ummah. They came through military means. But they got the bay'ah from someone like Hassan Turabi for claiming that they will implement the Sharia. Now this becomes a figurehead in the state, becomes the kind of guardian of the center of political discourse, center of legitimacy. We say that the Sharia is implemented by the Ummah. The Ummah is the guardian of Sharia, and the Ummah subscribes to a set of values. Those values are not part of politics. It's part of the Islamic civilizational values that does not age, whereas political Islam is subject to time and currents of political opinion and so on. I went to explain this, that there is now an opportunity. If this kind of politicization of Islam can be benchmarked and anchored in the civilizational values of Islam, I think this is the substantive merit in service that we can do. The people around this table, Malaysia itself, in the kind of background that we have. I think we ought to also reflect later maybe on what can be done to address some of the critiques that we face. I think it is important that we find a way, and that we had, for example, I'm happy that this is happening. When Tun Badawi was Prime Minister, he introduced the idea of Islam Hadhari. Because he was Prime Minister, he made it a program of his government. It was politicized by the nature of this development. We don't want to politicize civilizational Islam. And now to make it a part of civil society, of the intellectual kind of, spokespeople of Islam. If this is happening at a time that Tun Badawi is no longer Prime Minister, but is still supportive of the values and ideas, this is a great opportunity. And I think that what is happening in Tokyo and Kyoto in Japan and elsewhere, this gives merit, and I think a kind of a context that we hope to develop, and there is room for further discussion. Thank you very much.
Institute Integrity of Malaysia. He also empowered the Badan Pencegah Rasuah, is the corruption agency, and he also empowered the Hakim now. At the same time, now all these things is for the intellectual base, as mentioned.
On behalf of my colleagues at IKIM, I send my regards to Yang Ahmad Bagiatun, Datuk Jeff, and I just want to say that this year is 25 years of IKIM, And the motto is understand Islam, build civilization. Therefore, we have always been Hadhari. Our birth certificate is chopped. We are Hadhari. Although from time to time, as Professor Kamali says, because of the political climate, we have had to camouflage the Hadhari. But in reality, that's what we do. In essence, that's what we do. And I think the key word that we can probably share here is language, the language of discourse. So IKIM is fundamentally a research organization, although the researchers only number about 30, which is not much. But we work in smart partnership with the local universities and other agencies at home and abroad. And what we try to do is propagate, if you have to use that word, Hadhari knowledge and awareness. Much of what Prof. Hashim Kamali says is part of what we take on board and make, for lack of a better term, the masses. And we are quite serious about using the word the masses, because we salute all the intellectual exercises and projects that are going on. We need that. We need first-class research in Ahmad Bagitun. But I think we also must not forget that at the end of the day, we have to take care of as many portions of the umat as possible. So this is where IKIM is quite blessed by Allah SWT, because we have our media section. Our radio, alhamdulillah, is 16 years old this year, and listeners are now reaching 1.8 million, inshallah. And we are number 5 out of 52 radio stations in Malaysia. So we were working very hard. And our digital television is about 4 years old. And we are now exploring how we might use this media format. On top of that, we also publish hundreds of articles in the local tabloids. So please help us enrich the inputs inside all these media channels that is available to us. We are very vigorously trying to make connections and build relationships with the TV stations, like the national television stations and the private ones. We don't really worry about what label they use, but fundamentally we want to do da'wah subtly, implicitly, explicitly, not so subtly. It depends on our audience. As we speak, we are doing now in IKIM our Wakaf seminar. Just to explain to you, Wakaf is taken on board by certain agencies as their portfolio currently, and they insist on certain ways of doing Wakaf in the country. But that's all right. We will not bother and quarrel about that. But what is real out there is people are confused. Actually, who can do wakaf? How do you do wakaf? When? And the real fact of the matter is there is so much assets that lie within the ummah that is now not being organized properly. And yet we speak about poverty and all kinds of things among the ummah. So this is just to illustrate to you. So on the surface, it might seem that IKIM is doing so many things, but we are picking up pieces that we can deal with. And the word we like to use is tadabbur. It's all in the Quran. But then again, who explicates? Who actually explains to you these Islamic Quranic principles are supposed to help solve real problems? So we deal with public scholarship in that context. And I think public scholarship is a discipline in itself. And we hope somehow to thank you so much for this wonderful diagram. IKIM is in the red circle too. Yeah, so thank you so much for the great honor. We will try to live up to the expectation. And I think once in a while we have spoken to Datuk Jeff, to Dr. Hakimi and some colleagues in the secretariat. Yeah, we have to go global. It's so nice to see this what do you call it, booklet today. Yes, we have to go global. And last night, we had a public lecture where 30 students, 50, 60 from Germany, from South Africa, from Australia, from Europe, from Japan, I think. Malam tadi Tun. And the lecture finished at about 1 a.m. or so. And they refused to go back. So like you can sense among these young people, where are we going to go? Who's going to take us where? And they are just ready to listen to something. And so we have to cook up this road map forward without taking too much time, I think. And inshallah, the 86th floor of this wonderful building, I think this is symbolic of something, Tun. We are very high up. And I hope
No more up.
the uppers. This is the highest. Yeah, but I think we have enough oxygen here to sustain us in what we need to do. And Dr. Jeff, Ahmad bagi Tun, Dr. Profs, inshallah. And Dr. Azam reminded us that we belong to the same.
He's around.
Father, So inshallah, the twins here, we will be looking at this also, Datuk Jeff. So we're ready to move. So anything that you think we can automatically or quickly or instantly help you with, we are there. We have also a team currently in Kyoto now, Professor Kusugi, looking at the Kabata system.
The Kabata system.
So we are very eager to do documentaries. So you'll be surprised, I think you know this, but we just have to put our fingers on it. The media is so powerful today, and there's so many ways of doing it. Apps, blasting, I cannot keep up sometimes with the concepts that you're using. But you can viral, for once, the opposite of shaitan. And why do we grab the opportunity? So I hope we will build up our ICT capacities as well as we go along. Thank you, Tun.
Thank you. Maybe in the beginning we just throw our ideas, and then after that, the main question that how to do, what's next after this, and then of course this is very important. This is only suggestion, right? So our suggestion is that the legacy will be the office, and also you can see now GMM, Hakim, Hadhari, so we can discuss maybe every 6 months, whatever it is. So now it's time we just tell our experience through our ideas.
Bagi Tun and professors and members of this legacy. So first and foremost, I would like to thank particularly Tun for inviting me to attend this roundtable discussion. I would like to recall my memory about this Islam Hadhari. I still remember when this brilliant idea from Tun was motored, and if I'm not mistaken, Jakim took the initiative to identify those who can contribute to this brilliant idea. So we went to Genting Highland at this two-world hotel. So when I interpret the word two-world hotel, one is here in this world, and the other one is the next after. It's a very proper place to discuss at the very beginning. And I still remember at that time, Allahyarham Tan Sri Hamid was of the Tun staff. So we were called by Tun Baklah. We were called by Tun Mahathir at that time. So we went to see him.
Tapi yang tadi tak berkelik tu.
belum. So we asked, why Islam Hadhari not Islam progressive? Because he was at that time toward the Islam progressive. So we give him a very good answer. To us, we consider that this Hadhari is a very universal concept. It touches the humanity, it touches everybody in this global world. So there's no comment. So meaning that we proceed with our idea to have this Islam Hadhari. At that time, we will find difficulty how to translate the word Hadhari in English. So we have to open the dictionary. Also, before I come here, to also open the dictionary. So give very meaningful. I think this idea, I don't know how to get this, the word Hadhari very, very significant in our life today. So we can call back when Rasulullah established states of Madinah. That is to me the first initiative to form a Hadhari. So to me, the idea now, because of the fall of a Muslim government, a few months ago I visited Granada too, and asked some of these Spanish why this Hamra fall down. One of the reasons is because of the integrity of the Tun Pala, known as orang bersih, the clean leadership. So we have the advantage of this, and we hope that in our concept that we should also include here, we should we should give attention to the moral integrity as it is mentioned in the principle of Islam. Besides that, we also have to put the elements of ta'akul. Because if you are not, because if we read the Quran, the word ta'akul mentions so many times. Ta'akul and also knowledge. So if not based on ta'akul, if not based on knowledge, I think will be give some effect to the humanity. So before I go further, I would like to introduce myself from Islam Malaysia. Okay, to know better about Islam Malaysia, head by YABhg Tansi Songo. So far we have three schools. One of the school is pertaining to School of Heritage and Civilization. So this school may be very much concerned about it. We can bring together. I hope that this Islam Hadhari, and also we are now, before, during my time maybe it's only for Malaysia, but now going global, we move forward. It's a very good idea to make people globally known about this Hadhari. We need to have more publication on this. And I still remember when Tun was still Tun, we have this book, Ke Arah Umat Hadhari, which Tun really give the forward. Very good forward. I read very good. So maybe a book like this, more, maybe we can if the books here, actually, to the best of my knowledge, there are many small books pertaining to Hadhari. Maybe because the consumption of these ideas and also knowledge will be globally presented, so we need to have some book translated into English. So with that, I thank you very much. Very brilliant idea. Besides integrity, I attended the launching of integrity at KLCC. To give very good speech. Integrity have their own very high building, but hopefully the Hadhari also will have the same, inshallah, in future. Assalamualaikum.
Okay, again, thank you so much, Ahmad Bahagiatun. With all due respect, I think the paper presented and the concept which was envisaged in these few pages is very holistic. And with your kind permission, if I could address specifically on the fifth idea here, which states the three underlying the underpinnings of the concept of Hadhari Global Network, which is moderation, social well-being, and peaceful coexistence. Now, if you look at the world civilizations, the banner, the flag of Islam, has been defended successfully by the Quraysh, by the Abbasiyah, by the Turks. Now, as many have said, maybe it's the time for the Southeast Asians, maybe it's the time for the Malays, with the collaboration, mu'awanah alal birri wat taqwa, of all other Muslims in Japan and China, and this is not something new in the Malay world. I mean, our collaboration with Muslim Chinese, with Muslims, Turks, is very unlikely should we live during the time of Majapahit, where almost all are Hindus or Buddhists. Now the entire Indonesians are Muslims, practically speaking. And the same thing in Constantinople. Before it was a Christian country. And yet now it's more than 90% are Muslims. So the approach of moderation has been very much a Malay thing. It's one of those few places in the world where we have lived peacefully. There is a breath of fresh air, not only in this 86th floor, but it has been around for so long, since the Pulau Perca, Sumatra times, during the time of Malacca, and even today. If we look, it is as if that if you look at the current social media misinformation or disinformation or fake news, of course we may construct different ideas about what's going on in Malaysia. But if we look objectively as a scientist, doing all the benchmarking, for example, Malaysia is the top 10th most visited country in the world. People will not come here unless they feel secure. And Bahasa Melayu is being spoken by around 300 million people, no less. Yes. So we are poised actually to give some meaningful contribution. And the concept of Hadhari Global Network is very timely, Ahmad Bagiaton. And it has
It has been quite some time already.
Oh yes.
We must not forget it, but must continue all of that. Inshallah.
Inshallah, precisely. As Datuk Yusof has said, in Uzbekistan and over in Kyoto, even in Azhar and many other places, this idea has been realized. It does not exist only in books. It is not an academic concept. It is a real political concept. When Ahmad Bahagiatun was our Prime Minister, we know that. I can still remember very well, we had the first ever conference and exhibition on Islamic science right there in KLCC, the first ever. And later on is profligate to many other conferences. All of us at the academic world pick it up here in Malaysia. It gives a political legalization of that concept. So with the political input, with the social input, Dato' Azad, also one of the key players from Muslim Melayu those days, civilizational dialogue. So I really think sincerely that this is the perfect time, more so than ever. Because if you look at what is happening in America and the Trump, which in spite of the early campaigning about Islamophobia, he has to accept that Islam is here to stay. And peaceful coexistence is the in thing. The Twin Tower, we have two Twin Towers, but we are not competing, obviously. Both exist peacefully. And menara satu, menara dua, peacefully, and it adds such an aesthetic value to the landscape. And I do hope that with the rest of my colleagues here, that there is much more to be done. I did manage to learn from Dato' Nasaruddin just now, that the students in Morocco, they have this higher perspective of what Islam is, the spiritual aspect, which overrides the political thing. In one of the earlier meetings among some of the academicians, some of us and even have argued that this concept of politics is as ijtihad. This is an ijtihad. Al-ijtihadu la yanqadu bil ijtihadi. One ijtihad does not make the other ijtihad wrong. Should we choose whatever front that we want to contribute, so be it. Because everyone is so different even within the same family. And we must cherish this idea towards of building Islam, the civilization of Islam. Thank you very much.
So and distinguished professors and guests, I'm very honored to be here to wearing my Kyoto hat. Basically, I just spent my 3 months attachment as a visiting associate professor at Kyoto under the Petronas of Portuguese. Thank you very much for having me there. But I really acknowledge the limited time there and feel the different way of Japanese civilization, and it impacted me very much. So with me, Dr. Razi, and also Dr. Ikram, and also Dr. Saidi, we are among the, and also of course Dr. Hakimia, we are happy that we are under the umbrella of My Kyoto. So I'd like to disseminate the positive values that we attain along our time in Kyoto, and together with the work of legacy of YABhg, we would like to really bridge the gap between the, I'm not that young, I'm 40s, 41 to be exact, but I have a younger colleague, is that we have to bridge the gap between our young ummah and our, of course, the senior, because like YABhg Dr. Azan said just now, that masses is very critical now. We really have to reach them. We don't want that the idea of Hadhari is kept among us. We need to make our youngsters to understand what is Hadhari and how should they contribute. So I really hope that this Hadhari Global Network really run fast and we reach our youngsters so that the betterment of Islamic image, Islam, and what Hadhari, the Islam really promotes, really reach them to the heart, and they really want to take action and preserve these good values, because we think that we are doing what we're doing now, but do we have that assurance that our youngsters will really continue, or we want to make these ideas sustainable? That's all. Thank you very much.
Just to give a bit of background, when we started to have our own 10 identity of Muslim community in Singapore, kita ikut, actually we follow pun the 10 ciri-ciri Hadhari. So when Hadhari started first, so when we started to formulate what is the identity that we want for the Singaporean Muslim. We are a minority community. So is Japan, and there are so many other communities. When we want to formulate the 10 identity of Muslim community, because of our diverse community, we have the Shia, we have the Sunni, we have the Indian, we have the Chinese, we have the Malays, which is the majority. We have problems in identifying the ciri-ciri or the identity of common identity that we should should project in terms of a Singaporean Muslim identity. Also getting the inspiration from Tariq Ramadan, where he mentioned about being a European Muslim. He was also having this conflict on identity issues. So I think it is very important that Islam Hadhari, and I'm very glad that we are hearing the global network, which we can, the brand itself, the concept of this Islam Hadhari can be even propagated and spread across Islam in minority countries as well, because a lot of minority countries have a conflict in terms of the identity of Islam. This is where you have seen a lot of the identity that they have imported from the Middle East identity. They are not sure this is the Islam that do we practice, but that is from the Middle East. They have their own culture, they have their own civilization. You have your own civilization, you have your own culture. For example, in Japan itself, of course. So in China, it's a huge, Muslim community there. So I think it is, at present, I think it's very important that this, whatever good work that you are doing should be, should be even propagated, should be a platform for the world to see that this is the way Islam should be practiced and projected.
Very good, thank you.
There is a very high state of confusion among the Muslim community, especially in Malaysia or even in the region. The confusion between the process of Islamization and Arabization. Many tends to be in Arab more than turning themselves to be Muslims. So So these are the things, the messages that we should convey to the community, but it has to be a mass movement. And with what Dr. Shahida mentioned just now, if it is not a mass movement involving the young ones, then we will be talking just to the converts. We will be talking languages, again, which is not being discussed by the public at large. So that is my point.
But at the same time, we have to respect that, like myself, like my Institute of Hadhari is under university. Of course, we have the emphasis on academic. Like IKIM is on their, they have their own message. I mean, they have their own function. So Kyoto University is the academic identity. So, but at the same time, if we can coordinate, move together in tandem, that must be impactful. So again,
just a few words. Thank you very much for comments from the Japanese side. So I think now I studied Islamic economics, therefore my background is economics. But I think also the Japan and also the European countries are now suffering from the disease, social diseases of capitalism. So therefore,
disease of capitalism.
Yeah, disease of capitalism. So we need seek and reach some solutions to solve the problems that we are facing. So my impression of feeling is we have to learn from the Islamic civilizations because we have some movements for anti-capitalism, but some of the most of the anti-capitalist movements were not successful because of just criticize the capitalism. That's all. But I think when learning Islamic economics, this is my experience. I think the system of Islamic economy has some sharing point with Western capitalism. Civilization is Hadhari, not only for Muslims, but also the non-Muslim human beings are all. Therefore, I think that this network should be useful not only for Muslim, but also non-Muslim, especially the Japan and the Western societies. Thank you very much.
Last time after Tun visited Kyoto University, we had a suggestion to have what we call it the Islamic Awareness Week in Japan. Because people in Japan, they would like to have the halal things, the Islam thing, but they don't want to be associated with religion things. So we can say that you don't have to become Muslim, but you can adopt the Islamic ideas. So our intention at this time is to bring tabung haji, for instance. Tell us how the successful of tabung haji, they can, just because people want to do their Hajj, we can manage this tabung haji, and now this tabung haji is considered the best fund in the world. And we can also have this Hadhari, we can also have the kind of Islamization, the activities that we have in Malaysia. People in Japan, they would like to, very much understand that. But they say, every time they say, no, I'm not going to be Muslim. It's okay, but they want what is the alternative of this capitalism that we have now? He said the disease. People know about this. The individualistic, the LGBT, the human right is because of this capitalism. And they know the disease. But what is the solution? So maybe we need to have that extent, you said about mobilize the mass. So we can have this exhibition maybe after we have this collaboration in certain countries. Maybe we can have 1 week
also in Taiwan.
In Taiwan, in fact,
they want to know Islam.
Last month, we were invited to go to National Chongqing, Taiwan. More than 50% of the politicians in the cabinet of Taiwan come from this university. And after having discussion with us, and one of the lecturers is doing the Arabic philosophy, something like that. And they said, how I can adopt Islam without becoming Muslim? And then after discussion, they said, can you come to our university for 1 month and then deliver this aspect? Whether you become Muslim or not, it's not your job, it's work of God. Hidayah is not from us.
The idea of Islam Hadhari receptivity from non-Muslim was bigger than I think Indonesia and local communities, and even in Malaysia. This is because of the appeal of the 10 principles. The 10 principles of Islam Hadhari are non-sectarian, in fact, they are civilization. Muslim mentality is fairly open to that. The idea of benchmarking Malay, for example, factor in. The fact that it comes from Malaysia, that will be a part of it. But there is, I think, the Turkish, the Arabs, the Chinese, and you can establish, if the global network takes off, you can establish different chapters, but I think keep the idea at the kind of objective global level. But it does merit, I think, the Malay civilization should be an important part of it. You can establish this at a certain level, but not to kind of make it part of the general idea, the main idea.
IAS, IK, and Legacy as the secretariat, something like that. And the rest will come. We discuss later. So before that.
Thank you. Just that as a good reminder. Yesterday was August the 6th. That was the 72 years after Hiroshima and Nagasaki, actually. So we had a small event in Japan. The interesting thing is that how within these 72 years, Japan now has the most number of centenarians and very hardworking. Things that we need to learn. This is part of the Hadhari spirit, which we cannot find in another country. The only country that has ever experienced a nuclear war. 140,000 died. There was yesterday, August 6, 1945, in Hiroshima, and another 70,000 in Nagasaki. And yet they can rise from the ashes, becoming a very well-respected country. So in our, we are very zealous about this Islamic Hadhari thing is good. But one aspect that we always have to remember, as Malays, as Muslims, our willingness to learn a lot from all of the other civilizations.
Thank you. And I would like to refer to item number 10 and 11. I think item number 11 would be the most crucial thing. And I think the wording is not very in favor to us, where the network will not give rise to any financial obligation by one member of this network to the other, and each member will bear own costs and expenses in relation to activities. I think this is something which is very crucial, very crucial. And I think proposed main activities from among others that been mentioned here. I think most universities have been doing this, develop the postgraduate studies, implementation of seminars, conferences, etc., etc. I think by permission of Prof. Kamali, I think taking the lead by Ahmad berbahagia tun, we have dedicated our journal, International Journal under Islamic and Solution Renewal, which is an international standard. I think we have been talking that I think perhaps in the earliest the stage of IS, we have produced quite a number of publications on this theme. Perhaps on the publication on a book on Hadhari Global Network, and taking the point by Professor Kushugi that we have to go global. Now we have between Malaysia and Japan, an RTD in Oxford. Perhaps that will be the starting point. Perhaps develop this idea, having collaboration with that, and perhaps a book jointly published between these two parties.
This is not the final, this is just proposed. That's why you see it's more on the academic bias compared to the GMM1 to be a mass bias. So we can comment, because after this we are going to have a booklet so that we can send to our members. At the same time we can promote the ideas of Hadhari Global Network.
You got the academic setup,
Yes.
you got UKM there, you got IAS there, We got IKIM there and Kyoto. That is the academic backup. And I think the other main components that we got to bring in some other CSOs, NGOs come in. You know, those who buys to the ideas. We are not an NGO. We are a foundation that we could contribute in.
If you see in the diagram, we have institutional network. Yes.
On the page number 5, I think
in diagram.
In diagram, yeah.
Individual and individual and institution.
At the same time, I was also understand that according to Dr. Samsia that she can be under.
Thank you so much.
2008, 2007, there were many contacts. Some scholars from Azhar, for example, came to Malaysia. There were many conferences. Even the Islamic Fiqh Academy scholars, they spoke on the idea. And I think those contacts are still there. Maybe if now you are coming up with the Global Hadhari network, the idea of networking might suggest that we ought to go back and establish those contacts. It's important that you have some kind of communication with the University of Azhar, with the Fiqh Academy, with the Russia Mufti Council of Russia, and many others have held events, have been spoken to the idea and participated in it. I think there is an interest level that has been generated. Maybe we could contact those organizations.
Actually, we had our experience. We went to see our brothers from Islamic Foundation, Dr. Manazir Ahsan, and he support us maybe 100%. And even he came here to give a talk in our seminar. But unfortunately, to involve the Maxfield Institute of Higher Education, he said will involve money and whatever it is. So he preferred that if you want to send somebody to do on Islamic banking, whatever it is, because they have a lot of literatures, they have a lot of report from IDB, whatever it is, putting in the institution, you can go and do it. But to involve as institution the whole, and he has to table to the authority there. Oxford, I spoke with Professor Farhan. He said, no problem, we can have the activity, whatever it is, but without any commitments, so that he opened, because it's not belong to Malaysia only, he said, also other government. To Uzbekistan, several times they asked me, the problem with Uzbekistan is because they are from under Russian last time. They are big communist nature. So our ambassador in Tashkent advised me, if you have scholarship for their staff, university in Tashkent, for instance, Islamic University of Tashkent, you have one scholarship for PhD, one scholarship for master, and then through this, later on you can create the networking. But to come from bottom to up is very difficult, because the decision cannot be from university. Decision must come from top. So what you do through government to government, you offer scholarship, and then after that you have a relation between the student might do some work, some research work on the literature that they have. They have a lot of Islamic manuscript, Al-Biruni, Al-Khwarizmi, whatever it is, they have it. So you can have that, and then do the PhD either with Kyoto University or with our institute, our UKM. And then later on we establish the network.
I think the idea, it would be good to approach this from a substantive level.
Yeah.
What needs to be done? The idea of this terrorism, radical Islam, there is something that Muslims need to do, and to centralize the focus of the Islamic discourse on a set of values. This is something that you need to perhaps push rather than superficial contact, and to show that these are the ways. I think that might generate perhaps a better kind of context.
Whatever it is, that's right. And then we don't quarrel. I think it's nonsense. But we have to know
we are from this country, that that a lot of things we are doing. We are not going to tell them, hey, this is mine. I don't agree. Create an understanding that this is what it is.
A fundamental decision that we need to actually come into a consensus today. It is whether or not we're going to open our network not only at the agency level but also to individual levels, the scholars around the world, because some of these scholars they of course affiliated with certain agencies, but their agencies are not keen, but they keen, and then we need them. So if we may, have some consensus on that one, on item number 5.
Yeah, at IKIM, we're trying to promote the idea of Sahabat IKIM. What do we mean by that? We need supporters, agency-wise, individual-wise. So I think maybe it's a similar kind of question that we are posing here. So in Bahasa Melayu, Sahabat.
Maybe
Hadhari.
social well-being is include Sahabat.
That's right. So we have to cook up a terminology. Sahabah, I think it is good. I mean, I always try to promote the idea of sahabat because sahabat take care of each other. Sahabat has the same fikrah, that kind of concept, So
Terminology-wise mungkin tak kena sahabat.
So something like that, isn't it? So first, I think we agree that we should open it to individuals.
That fundamental question.
What you call that?
Thank you so much.
We take note for that.
Yeah.
Alright.
On top of having Sahabat IKIM or Sahabat Hadhari, we also have alumni.
Sorry, which alumni you refer to?
From our
UKM, alumni Kyoto.
From UKM and also from Kyoto University.
And from other universities. So maybe UIA.
From other universities. Okay. Very good suggestion.
I would like to suggest that you put, to make the proposal look more convincing, it's better to specify clearly which areas of Hadhari Global Network would like to focus on. Network to capture the current changes in the economy and the country, and it supports the national and international level action. For example, I don't know whether we are aware of the 4th Industrial Revolution. I keep talking about halal wakaf. What the impact of this 4th Industrial Revolution on this our research areas? Because robots are replacing our jobs and our next generation jobs. Robots that they do not have road talks, but we are human that creates those robots. So we have to to keep this human value remain within the civilization. If we have scholars or expertise in that area, we are welcome to offer our expertise.
Maybe at the legacy we can have a seminar on that. But I think this idea of Hadhari always in the 10 pillars that we have. So economy is the balance and economic development is there. The detail of it, of course, we did not put here. The detail of it, including halal or whatever it is. Economy is one of the components. Number 3.
I think I would like to support the 3 things that you've got: moderation, social well-being, physical resistance. Because whatever developments we have in the world, robotics or otherwise, the human being has to stand tall above it all. So, and the human beings, all of us, have to have those 3 principles. And no matter how complicated the economic system we are talking about, social well-being and peaceful coexistence, which is packaged to moderation, is always the fundamental foundation for our discussion.
I think Professor Koshki added on that because the idea of halal life is included in this. Maybe you can add that.
Well, I think the moderation, social well-being, and peaceful coexistence, which Islam Hadhari proposes, I think will be acceptable both Muslims and non-Muslims. I think here we have a common feeling that Islam Hadhari is for everyone in humanity, and that will be accepted. Well, Islam as a religion belongs to Muslims, but civilization is created, it's more universal and more comprehensive. And I think I'm very happy that we are sharing all these principles.
I think there is a considerable appeal for Islam Hadhari in Western countries. At that time, the United States also responded. I think in one of the speeches, Hamid Alba spoke that the OIC thought that it would be a good engagement to address radicalization of Islam. And the United States had also said that this is the approach to address terrorism. I think that this idea of, the problem of terrorism is something that is a global problem. And I think if we have a good proposal, we can also make this something more, quite appealing to the Western countries.
Of this meeting to actually read item number 3 along with item number 11. So the X there, if you could read item number 11, the second paragraph, I was saying, having said the above, meaning that nobody obliging to support financially or any forms, but the second paragraph, having said the above, the support for this network in all types and forms by Tun Abdullah Haji Ahmad Badawi's office, legacy, and or other members of this network, and or other parties collaborating with this network, and all members of this network are most welcome and will be credited or acknowledged. For example, if for example legacy contributing in a huge percentage in terms of supporting this network, so probably legacy should be accredited by giving the name like Legacy Hadhari Global Network. That's just a suggestion. It is open for discussion. A network chart kind of a figure that a network kind of with each other. It is not that one person above the others. It's not like that. Yes, and since we have agreed on the membership of this network at the institutional levels and as well as the individual level, we have, if you could look at the chart, the green one on your left and I think the red one on your left, I put it there, institution N, individual N, N meaning not network. It is kind of infinity. You can add more and more at the individual or institutional levels. Because if you look at this, it's only have like 1 and 2, kind of the first core and the second core spheres. But we want to add more. In fact, we have received an interest from the Arabic League, the Secretary General of Accra, to actually involve. So we're going to open more and more to give the meaning to the word global, and the spheres will grow. Yes, the spheres will grow. So this is just this is the sample of it, and then we should develop more and more. So I'm really glad that GMM willing to be in, and we have so many people here that willing to contribute in this network. So we hope that it's going to be very successful, inshallah.
Okay, thank you very much. So we